Hello everyone, my name is Marty Morales, founder of the Morales Method and Certified Advanced Rolfer. I've been in practice for about 20 years, and in this year, 2023, I've been very lucky to celebrate my 20-year anniversary as a body worker. That being said, I want to share some insights with regards to how I in particular and the Morales Method as a whole views fascia and fascial work. Now, before I go into it, I do want to acknowledge that there's been a lot of research around fascia, a lot of really amazing information and insights that have been gathered from the research of fascia. And that's all really amazing, and it's all really great to see that we've made some advancements in our research. The thing I want to share, however, is how we in the Morales Method view fascia, and then how that has affected our way of work. And what we end up doing is really taking this idea of fascial work, taking it and really dissecting it from a critical reasoning standpoint, and trying to get to a semblance of answers, or at least some direction that will help us to work in a way that will help our clients and will help us understand what we're doing. So I'm saying this here first, that I'm acknowledging the work that has been done in fascia and some of the conclusions that have been gathered. And that's all amazing, and I want to commend all the people who have done the work. But I also want to say that if we put some of this research and put some of this theory up against the thought processes of deductive reasoning and critical reasoning, we end up with really different conclusions than some of you might actually have. So this is what I mean, and I'll cut to the chase now. Let's take, for example, some research that has been done with regards to fascia, and we found, let's say, for example, fascia is known to be X, or is known to be XYZ, or under some type of measuring device, we have concluded that X happens to fascia under some type of pressure or stimulation or that type of thing, right? And which is great, like I said, fantastic that we're learning this. Now, we have to ask ourselves a few questions in order to really kind of expand our minds as body workers. And these are some of the questions that I will pose to you, and these are some of the questions that we in the Morales Method ask ourselves. And question number 1. You've read or been told studies about how fascia responds to certain stimuli. As a body worker, how sure are you that that is exactly what's happening in the body you're working on? And that's a really interesting question. You know, just because it's happening in the confines of a laboratory, is that actually what's happening to your client when you're actually working on them? It's very interesting to see it happen in a lab. It's very interesting to see it happen under the device of maybe an ultrasound or that type of thing. That's fantastic. But is that really what's happening when you're doing some type of manual therapy on a client? And the answer is, we're actually not sure. We're actually not sure what we're actually doing looks exactly it looks exactly like what we're doing or what we're seeing in a lab. We have another question. and that is this. How certain are you that results you noticed in the body you're working on are solely due to fascia and not another system or combination of systems in your client's body? It's kind of getting to a big question here, isn't it? And this may be, to some of us, a troubling question, especially when we say that our method or modality is actually doing something to fascia. When we say, for example, that we are doing XYZ to fascia, right? Well, the question is, how certain are we that what we're doing, the type of work we're doing to the client, is actually primarily related to fascia? And that's actually another question that we have to answer with, we don't know. And one of the reasons is because it's virtually impossible to isolate our body work to only affect fascia. And I'll say it again. It's virtually impossible for our body work to isolate or only work fascia. When we work on a body, we're actually affecting multiple systems, many different things, possibly some things we're not even really aware of yet at this moment, at this time of our scientific progress. But nevertheless, it's difficult to know, if not virtually impossible to know, what exactly we're working on when we're doing body work on a particular client. We have another question. Is it possible to isolate the work you think you're doing on fascia? We kind of answered this question already. Is it possible to isolate the work you're doing on fascia? And if we come up with the answer of no, we don't think it's possible to isolate our work solely on fascia, then we have a follow-up question of, if not, then how is it possible to isolate the results that we have seen from the work we're doing? How is it possible to isolate these results to purely fascia? So to put it another way, if we're calling our modality some type of fascia-related modality, and we're doing work on our clients, and we've answered this question of we're not really sure that the work we're doing is solely isolating fascia and solely working on fascia, and if we're not sure of that, then we really can't conclude that the results that we may be seeing by working on our clients are solely related to the fascia. It could be because of so many other things, mainly because we're working so many other things when we're putting pressure or doing some type of manual therapy on a client. When our body, for example, if my fingers are on my arm here, I'm touching hair, skin, adipose tissue, muscle, fascia, possibly getting to some type of subcutaneous nerves, blood vessel, bone, who knows what else. And if I'm working this area and maybe I get some type of resolution, is it really possible for me to say, oh, it must be because of the fascia? Well, I just said I touched so many things, I affected so many things. How can I say it wasn't because of the muscle tissue, or because of the adipose tissue, or because of the skin? And is it possible that it's a combination of everything that has been touched that then creates some type of resolution for the client. I know to some of us this may seem like blasphemy. To some of us it may seem like a revelation. But I'll tell you, for me in particular, it really opened up my mind to what I was actually doing. It gave me a lot more questions than answers, which some of us have to be okay with that. But I share this in hopes that it will help you. There's also a lot of talk with regards to permanency and the permanent work done to fascia. And again, it's very difficult to prove that any results from your work are solely due to any effect done to fascia. And as far as we know, to permanently affect fascia from our hands or from any type of pressure our hands can exert or our bodies can exert is extremely difficult. Yes, we see fascia move around and get moved around under the measuring devices of ultrasound, for example, but there's yet to be any type of conclusion as to the permanency of that. So if there's resolution, and what I mean is the permanency of the actual fascial structure, and if there's any resolution, then where is that coming from? And by resolution I mean, if there is a result, a positive result in the work that was done on your client, where is that coming from? Where is that resolution coming from? Does it matter that it's permanent or not? Good question. Does it involve more than one system? Another interesting question. And finally, we have one last question. If you're aware that other systems in the body can be stimulated or worked, and these systems, such as muscle, for example, can be responsible for the results you've obtained, then should we continue to call our work just purely fascial work? And this is really kind of ties into the big question that I want to really ask. And before I go to this point, I want to let everyone know these questions I asked myself many years ago as I was going through my training as a rolfer, even that early on, and then as I was a rolfer doing work. And it was a comfort to me to know that some structural integration practitioners were asking themselves the same question. And because of that, we went out and explored other modalities, explored other ways of working. Some of us came back with some answers. I came back with a lot more questions. But it really, what I want to share is that it really started with me. These questions really started in my own practice, and I started to ask other people these questions. And when we get to this point of asking these questions, it's not really to tear down someone's dogma, but it's more so to ask the question and to see if hopefully that will expand our thinking. And that's really my goal here, is to help to expand people's thinking, and for you to think kind of outside of your structure. And this is really one thing that the Morales method is about. And we like to say it's a method of no method. Yes, there is structure, but there are so many questions and there's so much kind of openness that allows the practitioner to bring in whatever works for them, to leave out whatever doesn't work for them in particular in their practice, and to make their work as they were taught in the Morales method, to make their work their own. So in this method, we are seeking to be comfortable in this question, to seek to be comfortable in the question. So again, my hope is that it will help you to kind of think, big picture. So finally, you might be thinking, well, sounds like Marty hates fascia. Sounds like there's no place for fascia in the Morales method. And actually, that's not true. And in the Morales method, what we like to think is that fascia is a system, just like any other system. There are some systems that we work closer with than others. And to me, because of the amazing structure, because of the amazing physiology of fascia, and because of how all-encompassing it is in the body, for me, fascia serves a huge purpose in the sense that it helps me to think globally. When I think about how interconnected everything is, I look at the person as an amazing dynamic system, and it helps me to think about other territories of my client, of that person, other territories, physical and possibly non-physical, as I'm working with them. So to me, it helps me to see big picture. It helps me to keep me grounded in the big picture instead of being so myopic as sometimes we can be, especially if we're working within the context of a series and working territories, particular territories in each series. Sometimes there can be a tendency to be myopic, but for me, when I think about big picture, I think about how fascia all encompasses the body, and I then attempt to see the person as a whole. And to me, that's a very that's a gift that fascia has given us. So to conclude, I hope this information helped. I hope this talk was helpful, and I do hope that it helps you to see the big picture, to expand your mind beyond fascia. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your time, and I wish you all the best. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions, and look forward to seeing you in the future.